Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0. Welcome back to the channel. Enjoy the fanfic. And let's begin. Part 3. Kaguya led the side branch Hyuga clan through the village, getting looks of shock and confusion. Many thoughts were going through their minds as why are the Hyuga clan with Naruto's beautiful friend. They quickly noticed Neji with her as he was holding her hand quite tight, being nervous of a new life. Kaguya-sama, where are we going? He asked. I know Konoha doesn't have a Utsutsuki clan compound. You don't have to worry about that, Neji. I can create us a compound in an instant as I have the ability to warp reality. Wow, Neji said in awe. You must be very powerful. Lady Kaguya, Hinoka Hyuga asked. Kaguya looked at the 90-year-old woman. Yes, what is it? Tell me, my lady, why did you do this for us? Why go through all this trouble for us slaves of the Hyuga? Because I know what's it like to sealed by your own family. Kaguya said coldly, shocking them. My own son sealed me away in the moon for centuries. Centuries? They asked as they all continued to walk. Yes, centuries. I'm the mother of all ninja clans and bloodlines. I was the first one to use chakra and I use it to end all wars on this planet. But after seeing humans misusing the power my sons gave them, I grew angry. The humans used it for war instead of using it to bring everyone together. It was enough to make me sick to realize humans weren't meant to have chakra. So what changed your mind? Moro Hyuga, a little girl asked. A young sweet boy named Naruto Uzumaki Senju. She smiled as she remembered the day she met him and the time she spent with him. Mini flashback. Naruto's seal mindscape. Huh, why would a beautiful lady like you be sealed inside of me? I am Kaguya, mother of all chakra. Kaguya, I am honored to be in your presence. Naruto praised her. Child, stand up. Do not bow. While I appreciate the respect, you shouldn't treat me like royalty, said Kaguya. But my parents said those of great importance must be shown the proper respect. You certainly were raised right, Kaguya chuckled. Flashback scene change. That's terrible to treat a sentient being in such a manner, Naruto shouted, shocking Kyuubi and Kaguya. Flashback. Outside the seal. I was hoping we could spend the day together. You and me. I'm not sure the world is ready for me yet, Kaguya said nervously. I mean, I once tried to eliminate mankind. Naruto moved closer to her and held her face in his hands, making her look at him. You're not that person anymore. Flashback. Hokage's office. It didn't feel right for someone like her to remain a prisoner after years of imprisonment. I mean, I'm sure she spent enough time repenting. End flashbacks. Kaguya let the first tears in such a long time stream down her face. Neji was the first who noticed as the woman gently wiped her eyes. He knew who Naruto Senju was. He didn't know how much about him, but he could see he meant a lot to his savior. Madam, you're crying, you okay? Neji asked, concerned. Ooh, I'm fine, Neji, and call me mother since I'll soon be your new one. My mother died when I was really young. She hated being a side branch and tried to get the seal abolished. She even threatened to go to the daimyo about this. But she was tortured with that stupid seal until she died. My father secretly hated my uncle since it was he who performed it. Neji said hatefully, gripping his fist. Neji, Kaguya said, kneeling down. I know what anger can do to someone, believe I know from experience. Don't let anger consume you or you will be led down a road of no return. I was just lucky to get a second chance even though I don't deserve it. But promise me you won't let your hate for the main branch define who you are. Neji nodded as he gave his word to not let his hatred and pain of the past affect his future and define his personality. Kaguya smiled as she led them towards the southern part of the village and took notice of the old compound. It was still in fine condition but could use a little cleaning up. This old compound used to belong to Uchiha clan before they were relocated outside of the village. Kaguya used her bloodline and her ability to control the elements and particles of reality. She moved her hand to the left as the chakra wind swept the compound, blowing away dust and other dirt particles, making the compound clean. This will the Utsutsuki clan compound. Kaguya said calmly. Unpack your things in any house you wish in the compound. Neji will live with me in the main compound. The side branch members nodded as they headed into the compound and began to take refuge in the houses. Kaguya took Neji with her to the main former Uchiha clan head house. It was beautiful, but she had to get rid of all the Uchiha markings and other stuff first. Once that was finished, then they can finally have a place to call home. Despite her being only a clone, she was looking forward to a free life. Gazing up at the sky as she looked out the window, she let out a sincere smile. Thank you, Naruto. You've given me my second chance. Thank you, my love. Mother, are you alright? Neji asked. Kaguya turned to Neji. I'm fine, Sochi. How about we go out to eat? That would be nice. I do know a nice barbecue place we can go to, Neji smiled. Konohagakure. Main District. Naruto along with his mother Mito and his friends arrived at the Konoha barbecue. The lunch was on the Akamichi clan. Here were 2 long benches on each side of the long grill. Naruto was seated, of course, next to his buddy Sasuke. Shikamaru sat next to the right of Sasuke with Choji next to him and next to Shikamaru. On Naruto's left was Satsuki, who was a major fan girl of Naruto's. Naruto hated as he knew Satsuki only wanted to marry him due to his senju status. Mito Senju was gripping her knife as she despised fangirls, especially ones who wanted to use her son. Yeah, keep smiling, you Uchiha skank. I'm not going to let you marry my Sochi. Mito growled, gripping the knife tighter. Naruto took notice of his mom's expression and the knife in her hand. He knew her anger was towards Satsuki as he gave her a look that said, Mom, calm down, I got this. Mito sighed, dropping the knife to the table as she crossed her arms. On the other side of the grill opposite to Sai seated Lee, and to him right followed Kiba, then Sakura, Ten, and to the farthest right, Shino. When they were all seated, the waiter delivered the meat to them on a trolley. Whoa, did they order a bunch? It was 20 kilos of pork. Some of them wondered how they were going to finish all that, especially Ino and Sakura, but remembered that they had Choji. His clan was always known to overeat, which raises their strength and stamina. Each started to place their own pieces of meat over the grill. And when the meat was done, they said in unison, Itadakimasu, and they started to eat. Wow, Choji, your parents are great cooks, Naruto said with stars in his eyes. Thanks, Naruto, my mom is the best chef in the business. I have to admit, Chia Akamichi's food is wonderful. Mito smiled. It's a bit better than my cooking. Mito-sama, you flatter me, Chia, Choji's mom complimented as she served another table. No, I'm serious, could I borrow some of your recipes? I don't see why not. In fact, I'd be honored. So Sasuke, how do you like the food? Naruto asked the raven. Oh, the barbecue is great, replied the raven. I think the barbecue is great too, Satsuki giggled. Mind if I feed you? Naruto was kind of a little uneasy about seeing Satsuki flirt with him. Though he told himself that she's just being nice. It was just a bit too creepy, especially since she wanted to feed him. I'm fine, Satsuki, really, I can feed myself. Satsuki, back off, you heard him, Sasuke said, with a kind of serious look on his eyes. I heard him, Tem, but it's none of your business. I'm going to be the future Lady Senju. Like hell you will, Mito and Sasuke growled. Is my brother getting jealous? Asked the fangirl Uchiha in a teasing manner. A blush formed on Sasuke's face. It turned so red Naruto took notice. Hey, your face is all red. Naruto said to the blushing raven. It's the heat. Yeah, the heat from the grill. That's why my face is red, defended the raven. Oh really? Is that why? Satsuki asked again with a smirk. So Naruto, I heard you've been spending the afternoon with Kaguya. There's a rumor going around the village that you would make the cutest couple. Mito said in a teasing manner. Mom. Naruto stuttered, blushing madly. It's not like that. I was just showing her a good time and great places around the village. Are you sure about that? Mito smiled, noticing Kaguya walking in with Neji. Yeah, I'll admit she's cute and a beautiful woman. But she deserves someone who can respect her, protect her, admire her. She's a sentient goddess with a hard past but a good heart. Ooh, am I? Kaguya kissing Naruto on his cheek. Naruto felt the kiss and turned around to see Kaguya. She was dressed in a black tank top and blue short shorts which showed off her legs. Naruto soon got a nosebleed as he fainted backwards. Was the outfit too much? Kaguya added innocently. I wanted to keep up with modern fashion. Ooh, the outfit is fine, Mito said as she gestured her to join them. So you're Kaguya. Kaguya and Neji took a seat across from Mito as Kaguya noticed the Uzumaki woman. She remembered from Naruto that this woman is his mother. She could read Mito's thoughts and she could see Mito was very overprotective of Naruto. So you think you're good for my baby Maelstrom, do you? Mito said sweetly. I'll admit Naruto is a sweet boy, but I'm going to wait till he gets a little older before any sort of relationship starts. Kaguya replied back just as sweetly. Just because you're a goddess doesn't mean I'll let you shag my son when he's older. Mito smiling again with her eye twitching. Naruto woke up immediately when he heard what his mom said. Man, sometimes his mom can be so embering. Naruto admitted he had a crush on Kaguya, I mean who wouldn't? But he didn't want to rush and hey, anyone was better than Satsuki, right? At least Kaguya was no fangirl. Are you insinuating I'm not good for someone like Naruto? Kaguya growled. You took the words right out of my mouth, Mito growled back as lightning flashed between them. You know what, you look like a big cream puff with that kind of white hair. Kaguya's eye twitched as tick marks appeared on her forehead. She knew cream puffs were fat-looking puffs and she took that insult hard. She thought Mito was calling her fat. Like you're one to talk, tomato. Kaguya screamed, making Mito growl, making the lighting between them increase. Cream puff. Tomato. Cream puff. Tomato. Cream puff. Tomato. Cream puff. Tomato. All the children were shaking as they were getting scared of the two angry arguing kunoichi. Shikamaru was mostly afraid because they reminded him of his mother Yoshino Nara. Sasuke and Choji learned from their fathers never to interfere with an argument between two pissed-off women. Naruto was a bit braver as he tried to play peacekeeper. Now mom, Moonlight, let's just all calm down, okay? There's no need to fight over me. Naruto chuckled nervously. I love you both anyway, now come on, we're supposed to be having fun and eating a nice prepared lunch. The two kunoichi looked at Naruto, who was begging them to keep their arguing on hold so they could enjoy their lunch. Kaguya and Mito HMPHED at each other, turning away from one another as they sat down to eat their lunch. Phew. Naruto sighed in relief. Naruto sat down as he noticed Neji was sitting next to Kaguya. He was Hinata's cousin from the side branch. Hey, you must be Neji. I'm Naruto. Nice to meet you, Naruto. Kaguya-sama spoke fondly of you. Well, thanks. How do you know her? She saved me in the side branch from the main branch of the Hyuga clan. She overpowered my uncle Hiashi and freed us from the cage bird seal. He said with a smile. She offered us asylum in her clan and welcomed us as new members of the Utsutsuki clan. She took me in as her firstborn son as well. What? Mito coughed. You kidnapped half of the Hyuga clan. I wouldn't say kidnapped, I say liberated. Mito-sama, please don't be angry with mother, we owe her our lives. You could end up in a lot of trouble for this. Mito sighed. You may have started a civil war in the village. Wars don't scare me, Mito, Kaguya said firmly. I can easily take down the main branch. Why one aren't you? Shikamaru said lazily. Of course not. Kaguya smiled. Let's just enjoy our lunch, shall we? Naruto asked, making everyone nod. Namikaze clan compound. Minato was in his office going through some paperwork. Apparently the paperwork was marriage contracts for Menma and Naruto. The Namikaze maker was kept under lock and key. The daimyo was informed of the maker a day after it happened. Lord Shun was informed all right, he was informed in secret before it even happened. While he did mourn the loss of Anbu, he didn't tolerate child abduction and forceful breeding. He agreed with Hashirama that the Namikaze had to be punished. Yes, he knew about Hashirama being alive, but he kept it all secret from Minato to not arouse suspicion. Anyway, Minato got marriage contracts between Iwa and missed asking for the marriage of Unoka's granddaughter and Yagura himself to be engaged to Menma. Whereas Naruto's was asked by Nadeshiko, the Amazon village, and by Kumo to betrothi Naruto to Yugito ni the Nibi Jinchuriki and the Nadeshiko leader's eldest twin daughters. Minato knew that these marriages would indeed strengthen the Namikaze clan and even bring new bloodlines and another Jinchuriki into the clan. Minato immediately signed the contracts and asked for Minako, his cousin, to send the replies straight away. Minako nodded to her cousin and set off to deliver the marriage contracts signed by him. Too bad Minato had no authority to marry off Naruto since he's not actually his anymore. Minato knew that even though Naruto was adopted, he was still his father, so these marriages will help reel Naruto in. Phew, well, that takes care of that. Minato sighed in relief. With Iwagakure and my clan's alliance, it will end the bad blood between us. Plus, with Kumo, Naruto will be able to bring powerful children born from two Jinchurikis, giving us a whole new breed or bloodline. I didn't know Yagura was gay, but still, it will bring us two Jinchurikis anyway. Enjoying yourself? A cold voice rang out. What, who's there? Show yourself. Ooh, forgotten me already. Minato looked to see the door and the walls warp a little as a dark-haired woman with beautiful but deadly features stepped out. The Yondaime could tell from the markings that it was the Shinogami herself. What did she want this time? Didn't she do enough taking Naruto from them? What are you doing here? Haven't you taken enough from us? Minato shouted bravely. Minato, ha 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 ha, of course not, she growled. I'm here to claim the debt that you owe me from that night 6 years ago. Remember, you summoned me to seal away the Kyuubi into your two sons. And I spared your life out of mercy. But you betrayed that when you left Naruto on his own and abandoned him. It was necessary, as the prophecy we were given by the great Toad Sage was accurate. Therefore Menma was the one it spoke of, and he came first. Besides, Naruto will understand when we come back for him. Suddenly the Shinigami gripped his neck and held him up to her face. He tried screaming, but the Shinigami told him that no one will hear him since she placed silence barriers around the office. Prophecies aren't sealed in stone, you idiot. They constantly change with each event that pays. As for your great Toad Sage, he's not the one who is supposed to give prophecies. That belongs to my daughter Delphi. Only she has the power to give true prophecies. Your old man Toad probably overheard it. You lie, what could you possibly know of prophecies? You're the goddess of death, nothing more. Minato barked. A child will be born from the mighty tree. He will have powers of ancients long forgotten. With power of the divine beast he will save the world or become its destruction. If shrouded in darkness, the child of prophecy will bring death to all in its path. If shrouded in love and light, the child will bring the cycle of hatred to an end. He will bear the light of the moon and will use its power to bring peace. Yeah, but you never heard the full prophecy. What do you mean, full prophecy? Minato asked. The child born with the aid of the Lady of White and Demon of Fire shall bring an era of understanding. If the chosen shall lose his light half, darkness will consume him. The child of fire and light will shine bright upon a peaceful future. That's it? Minato asked again. Yes, that's it, Minato. You screwed up big time. You actually believe that Menma is the one the prophecy speaks of. She laughed coldly. Menma is the child of prophecy, and I will prove it. He will bring an era of peace to the world, and you'll see that I was right. The death goddess growled. Really, and you believe Naruto will just be some sort of backup in case something goes wrong? Because I heard you're planning on placing him in the Namikaze side branch and be used as a breeding tool for the Mokuten. That I can't allow. You have no business here, the goddess of fate Yami, Kami can't interfere with mortal affairs. Minato snarled. Now kindly let me go and be on your way. I got to work to do and I have to get back to my son to teach him the Rasengan. Angered by the disrespect, she threw him against the door as the Yondaime hit with a loud grunt. Panting, he looked up to the Shinogami as she stared down at him with disgust. You think you can order me around, mortal? You think just because you think Menma is the prophecy child you can talk down to me and treat me like I'm some kind of commoner? Oh no, Minato, for this disrespect I can't leave you unpunished. Punished. Minato shivered. For your insolence I shall take away from you the bloodline and most of our chakra that made you what the mortals call the yellow flash. You are undeserving of it, and so I will remove the Hiroshin and 60% of your chakra from your body. You will then learn what it means to suffer just like you made Naruto. She said harshly, reaching out her hand towards Minato. No. Minato whimpered. No. Pain. That's right, pain was the main thing that occupied Minato's thoughts as he lay in a disjointed haze of pain on one of the emergency room tables. A small army of doctors and nurses were currently working over him in a fevered swarm of barely controlled chaos, pushing, prodding, sticking him with needles and tubes, calling for blood and more units of drugs he had never heard of before or could ever hope to understand how they were supposed to drive back the encroaching rush of blood or patch the gaping slash across his stomach that was steadily draining him of life. It looked like Minato was attacked by a savage beast. But that was quickly debunked as the slashes were infused with some sort of dark energy. It felt cold with a smell of death. Apparently what they didn't know was that Shinogami might have gone overboard after she removed the Hiroshin and 60% of his chakra. They didn't know it was the death goddess, and it was better that way. To piss off one of the trio sisters was a death sentence. Minato grunted as he felt every poke, prod, etc. as they were desperately trying to stabilize him and keep him alive. How did things get this bad? Why was the goddess punishing him for trying to save the world? Why risk everything because of the sake of a single boy? Why? These thoughts went through his mind as he just laid there. One Medi Nin moved forward to press a square of gauze to his shredded stomach. As she leaned back again to give one of the doctors access to the seeping wound, he saw that her latex-gloved hand was now painted a disturbingly vivid shade of red all the way up to her wrist. That was the second major thing to register in his fading conscience. He supposed it was only natural, seeing as how they'd stripped him of all his clothes from the waist up after Jiraiya had carried him through the emergency room doors screaming for help. Tsunade, his mother, was using most of her chakra to prevent the dark plasmic-like energy from reaching any of the internal organs, basically the heart. She was also overlooking the nurses who were able to extract the plasmic fluid via hose into a container. The plasmic was like a black liquid with purple energy waves. Once fully extracted, they started to get him prepped for surgery. On the far side of the room, over the tops of his toes, Minato could just make out a set of double doors with large GL windows. On the other side of the GL, standing outside in the hallway looking in, were his wife and son along with his sensei. The red-haired Kunoichi stood with her face almost pressed right up against the GL, desperately watching the knot of Medi Nin working over him. Her eyes were bloodshot and red, her cheeks wet and streaked with uncontrolled tears. She was shaking violently, the back of one hand pressed against her lips as if struggling to hold in her ragged sobs. She stared at him through the window with watery green eyes as if silently begging him to somehow pull through. Off to her side, standing slightly back from the door more near the middle of the hall, his son Menma looked on in blank, could see the worried expression on his face. Menma was greatly concerned for him and his well-being. His son looked up to him and he was afraid that he wasn't going to survive. Jiraiya was most concerned for his student. He was the son that old Toad never had. He took pride in his student and his accomplishments. He felt like a proud father when he first met and trained him. But seeing him in critical condition and not knowing who attacked him, the Sannin vowed for vengeance against the one who attacked his surrogate son. Blood pressure 70/55 and dropping. A nurse standing near Minato's head called out, "Damn it." The doctor on his left shouted again and hurriedly grabbed another unidentifiable medical instrument from one of the nurses and leaned back down over his shredded abdomen. His hands and the lower portion of his forearms were completely covered with blood and clotted gore. "Hoshi, call Hikari up in surgery and tell her to have an operating room ready for us. Once we get my son stabilized, we're going to have to move him there fast." Blood pressure 65/50. The nurse called, "Sochi. Minato-kun, look at me." Tsunade yelled as her strong hands began to shake his shoulder. Groggily blinking his eyes up at the one so insistently calling his name, he gave a weak, twitchy smile under the oxygen mask that had been fitted over the lower portion of his face. "Tsunade-ka-san," he whispered in a watery cough. He was taken aback by how weak his voice sounded even to his own ears. There was also the faint taste of blood now in the back of his mouth, as if speaking had dislodged something and released the proverbial dam. Tsunade stared down at him in unconcealed horror. Her amber eyes were filled with panic, her usually immaculate blonde hair mussed and tangled as if she hadn't slept in weeks. "Sochi, what happened?" she demanded, unconsciously gripping his shoulder tighter as she frantically stared into his eyes. Her grip was beginning to verge on being painful. Minato couldn't help but feel guilty for being the one to put that frightened, pain-filled look on her face. "SS Shinigami," he coughed as he ped out. A fiery, possessive look flared in Tsunade's eyes and she speared the doctor with a poisonous glare that would have instantly turned him to ash if it were physically possible. Straightening from over her son, she turned to the nearest nurse and hissed, "Get me a pair of gloves. I'm taking over." None of the doctors or medical personnel dared contradict the female Sannin as the nurse timidly handed Tsunade a pair of latex gloves and scurried to the other side of the emergency room to get as far away from her as she could. "Don't worry, brat," Tsunade said as she snapped the gloves on and forced one of the other doctors to give up his spot by the table with nothing more than a glare. "You're going to be all right, I promise." Outside of the operation room, Kushina was sitting with Menma. Menma couldn't even sit still due to his worry about his dad's condition. Kushina was another story. She wondered how something like this could have happened. The compound was secured with powerful seals to prevent outside threats after the Namikaze massacre from Mito Uzumaki. The seals were powered by a triple matrix seal that encircled the compound with a powerful electric barrier that would fry anyone who dares touch it or tries to mess with it. The seal would also alert everyone within the compound if any intruder ever managed to get in. So what went wrong? Who managed to not only sneak in but alter husband, the most feared man in the shinobi world? She knew it couldn't be Iwa Shinobi since they fear him. Kumo was out of the question due to A's respect for him. Kurigakure wouldn't bother since they are at civil war. Suna was the weakest, so they didn't pose a threat. Suddenly it all came back to Mito, her clansman. But Mito already proved her point by killing most of the clan and leaving an impact. Plus she was a sealing mistress, so she couldn't exactly rule her out for coming back for revenge. Ooh, why did things have to go wrong? Why couldn't anyone just let fate do her job? "Mrs. Namikaze," a nurse said. "Yes. Is my husband okay?" Kushina panicked. "Well, your husband is stable. He suffered from 7 broken ribs, his right leg was broken in 6 places. His broken rib cage almost pierced his lungs. His fingers were broken, well, most of them. His body was also infected with an unknown black liquid plasma in his blood. We managed to extract it all and heal his injuries. But that's where the good news end." "What's the bad news?" she asked, scared to know the answer. "Whatever that plasma was. It apparently removed 60% of your husband's chakra. We tried to reverse it, but for some reason it affected your husband's chakra pools from replenishing what was lost. His chakra pools themselves have also shrunk to that of a civilian-born shinobi. Kushina covered her mouth with tears streaming down her face. She had no idea the extent of her husband's injuries and how far his ailment went. I'm sorry Kushina-sama, but I'm afraid your husband won't be as powerful as he used to be. I'm sorry, the nurse apologized. You should head home, we will call you when the surgery is over. Get some rest. Kushina nodded as she left the hospital with her son. She wanted to stay with her husband, but the nurse was right. After all, Tsunade was the greatest medic in the world. If anyone can save her husband, she can. On the way to the Namikaze compound, she dropped Menma off at his friend's house because of a sleepover they were having. After kissing Menma goodbye, she walked down the streets and towards the compound. When she arrived, she unlocked the security seal which allowed her access before relocking it. Namikaze compound main house. Humming to herself, she entered the main house and headed into the kitchen to make herself some ramen. The sweet smell of the ramen filled the air as she poured herself a bowl and sat down at the table. While eating, she felt a cold wind-like chill. Did she leave the window open? Did I leave the window open? Kushina asked herself. It's freezing. She quickly noticed it was open as she walked over and shut the window. Wiping her forehead, she headed back to the table. Until she heard what sounded like whispers. Traitor! 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 The voices whispered. Who's there? Kushina shouted, thinking there was an intruder. Show yourself. Traitor! 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 Kushina started to panic. She could hear them, but she couldn't see them. But how did they get in? Acting on instinct, she grabbed a large kitchen knife from the kitchen and moved slowly as to not be caught by surprise. Suddenly the lights went out and the temperature dropped quickly to a freezing temperature. Now Kushina was scared as she started to hyperventilate. The house began to shake as the floor began to break apart. Kushina screamed as she rushed to the door as she gripped door trying to pull it open. The door didn't budge, but the knob came off. She gasped as she saw the floor breaking apart more. Quick on her feet, she rushed upstairs to seek shelter in her room. When reaching the top of the steps, she noticed someone at the end of the hall. Hello, she said, still clutching her knife. Are you the intruder who's responsible for this? If so, I demand you fix this and leave immediately. When she got closer, she noticed it was a boy around the age of 6 or 7. He had spiky red hair that was similar to Minato's. The boy was also dressed in a white shirt with an Uzumaki insignia on the back and black hakama shorts. Could it be? Could it actually be? Could it be Naruto? Naruto, Kushina said softly. The boy was staring at the wall, not responding. Maybe the boy didn't quite hear her. Kushina decided to try again, this time with more motherly instinct. She then immediately noticed a deathly figure appear next to him. She gasped as she recognized that spirit anywhere. The Shinogami had appeared once again. Until 3 others appeared, 2 Uzumaki women and 1 male. They turned around to reveal Hoshi and Yakone, her parents, and the founder herself. Well, look what the cat dragged in, Shinogami smirked. You! Kushina roared. Leave us be. We've suffered enough from you. Ooh, someone's testy, the goddess laughed. And no, you haven't. You see, I was talking with some of your deceased Uzumakis and like me aren't very happy with you. Kushina recognized the ghosts immediately. It was her parents Yakone and Hoshi and the founder herself, Anita Uzumaki. But why would they be here? Why would they come to visit her when they've never done before? She was going to find out. Father. Mother. Anita-sama. Kushina said before her father interrupted her. How could you do this, Kushina? I raised my daughter better than this. Yakone shouted. I didn't raise my daughter to forsake her own kin. I raised you with good morals and branded the Uzumaki creed into your brain. I didn't forsake my son, father, Kushina defended. What would you call it then? He asked with a raised eyebrow. It's called protection. He would be safe within the village while Minato and I train Menma to control the Kyuubi's chakra. You could have raised him in the Leaf Village, Hoshi scolded. Naruto held the soul and it would be dangerous to have the two of them together. The Kyuubi would be allowed to slowly absorb its chakra back into its body. Kushina explained. You could have had Tsunade to stay behind and take care of him. She is his grandmother after all. Anita said coldly. Tsunade was needed with us. If Menma ever lost control and hurt himself, she would be there to heal him. Kushina replied defensively. Besides, Shizune stayed in Konoha so she could take care of him. You're his mother, you're the one who had to raise him. Hoshi screamed. I did this to protect both of my sons. Besides, Naruto will be back with us when we return to Konoha in a few days. Menma will have his brother back and the prophecy will be on its way to fulfillment. Hoshi and Yakone shook their heads at the daughter's arrogance and belief in someone as stupid as a prophecy. The Uzumaki clan never believed in such nonsense. The only time they would believe it if Lady Delphi herself was the one who foretold it. Hearing it from an old toad was not evidence enough that this prophecy was even real. You've lost your way, Kushina. You've abandoned and betrayed the Uzumaki creed that we Uzumakis have followed since Anita-sama, the granddaughter of Indra Utsutsuki, founded the clan. Yakone said in disappointment. I've done no such thing. Kushina argued. We of the swirling tide value camaraderie and family above all others. United we thrive, severed we fall. We swear upon Lady Anita that family will always come first. No outside or inside force will come before it. We the Uzumaki clan swear to uphold this sacred creed and leave no family behind. Anita recited, glaring at Kushina. You broke the very creed I created. You left Naruto behind. You abandoned him for a prophecy. We the ancestors of the Uzumaki clan find you unworthy of the clan name and its sacred blood. You can't be serious. I already told you the reason for all this, Kushina said, stomping her foot. The need of the many outweigh the need of the few. Naruto will understand when we come back from him. Besides, he won't be under any threat. The Kyuubi's soul is powerless, so there is no harm. You baka. Anita screamed. A tailed beast soul is more manipulative than its chakra. Naruto could very well turn to the tail beast for comfort if he ever learned of your abandonment of him. Naruto will be fine. Like I said, Mito is there with him. Speaking of Naruto, he already knows you abandoned him. Shinogami laughed. That's right, apparently he's met the Kyuubi and the fox told him. And Naruto knows. Kushina stuttered. He wasn't supposed to know until we came back. You're lying. There is no way Naruto could have met the fox. The seal was designed to separate Naruto from the soul until a certain age. Ooh, I'm telling the truth, Kushina. Ha 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 ha. In fact, Naruto already hates you and your husband. He doesn't hate Menma though, since he believes his brother had nothing to do with this. Ha, Naruto would never hate us, Kushina said bravely, though secretly was afraid it might be true. Don't believe me? Well, go ahead, ask him yourself. The goddess said, gesturing to the boy standing next to her. Naruto, it's me, it's mommy, Kushina smiled. The boy slightly turned his head to the right, acknowledging the woman calling out to him. Kushina was breathing a sigh of relief. If this was Naruto, then perhaps Shinogami returned him to her. She smiled warmly until the boy turned around. It was Naruto, except half of his face and body were decayed and rotting. Like Emilia Croft Thrall in Tomb Raider Underworld. His clothes from the front were torn and bloody. He bared a similar resemblance to the goddess Hel. No, Kushina said, backing away as the boy slowly started to walk slowly towards her. No. 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 The boy was indeed Naruto, but Kushina couldn't believe what she was seeing. It looks like her son went through a blender or something, or walked through acid. Its appearance was horrifying, as if from a horror film. She had to be dreaming. This had to be a dream. She tried to desperately wake up but found out quickly this was all real. What sort of trick is this? Kushina shivered. It's no trick. You wanted to see Naruto. Well, here he is, or what remains of his former self. The goddess laughed darkly, sending shivers up Kushina's spine. You abandoned me, Ka-san, the Naruto thrall replied. Why didn't you love me like Menma? Kushina was sweating and panting heavily. Her heart was racing as the creature was coming closer. She tried to move, but it was like she was frozen in place due to the amount of fear she was feeling. Naruto, please, I don't abandon you. I love you as much as Menma, Kushina screamed as she started sobbing. No, Ka-san is lying, the thrall shouted. You never loved me. You wanted Menma because he would save the world. The creature continued its way closer to Kushina as it stopped to pick up the knife that Kushina dropped when she tried backing away. She sobbed as she saw him pick it up. Fearing she was going to die, she begged for her life. Please, Naruto, please don't kill me. I'm sorry for abandoning you. She cried as he stepped forward closer and closer with every step. Please, Naruto, please spare me. Please spare me, please, please, please. She immediately remembered her backup kunai in her waist pouch as she took it out and thrusted it into Naruto. She panted as the creature looked at her and cried. Suddenly the thrall exploded into a pool of blood, drenching her in the red liquid. She screamed as she tried to wipe it off her body. She thrashed and rolled around trying to wipe it all off until she suddenly ped out on the floor. The genjutsu faded as Shinogami and the Uzumaki spirits looked upon her body. Well, that was entertaining, the goddess laughed. I wish I could have tortured Minato that way. You think Kushina had learned her lesson? Anita asked. Knowing her, she'll probably think it was just a nightmare. Yakone scoffed. Still think she deserved more than what he gave her. Ooh yes, thanks for reminding me, I almost forgot. The death goddess knelt down before Kushina as she held her palm wide open as Kushina's body glowed dark purple. Suddenly chakra chains came out of her body and was absorbed into the goddess' hand. Kushina's chakra chains were slowly being removed from her body while her chakra pools were undergoing a slight change. They were still large, but their potency, which all Uzumakis have, were becoming less and less potent. Which meant her longevity was cut in half. Normally Uzumakis can live to 200 years at best, but now Kushina will live up to at least 80 to 100 years old. Her knowledge of all Uzumaki seals were stripped from her mind. But she was allowed to keep the seals that would help keep Menma in check if he ever lost control of its chakra. Not that it would do her any good. After a few good minutes, Shinogami was finished. Kushina's bloodline and knowledge of the Uzumaki sealing arts were gone, her longevity was cut in half, and her special chakra to manifest solid objects was gone for good. She was of course allowed to reproduce, but her children and grandchildren will never carry Uzumaki blood unless they marry into the Uzumaki clan itself. The goddess then moved the unconscious woman to her bed, so when she wakes up it will be like she had a horrible nightmare. I think we've overstayed our welcome. It's time we left for the netherworld. Our work is done here, the goddess chuckled. Will Kushina remember any of this? Hoshi asked. Your daughter will this day, Hoshi. It will be a day she will never forget. Why did you give her back the ability to reproduce? We had Kushina and Tsunade remain barren. We also stripped them of their bloodline. Anita demanded an answer. You may have been able to punish her, but you only made her bloodline and blood dormant, which meant she still had it in her body. However, I decided to tweak it a bit. I fully removed and absorbed her Uzumaki bloodline and cut her longevity in half. Also, I gave back her ability to reproduce. Her children and grandchildren will be full Namakazes with no drop of Uzumaki blood. But Minato is quarter Uzumaki due to being Tsunade's son, said Hoshi. Ooh, I took care of that. Minato's Uzumaki blood was removed when I punished him. He's still Senju by blood, but no blood relation to your clan. Unless of course you want her to always have a miscarriage. No, we will allow her to reproduce. Anita sighed. But at least she will never breed Uzumaki children again. What about Tsunade? Yakone asked. Ooh, leave that old woman to me. With that being said, the spirits vanished from the Namikaze compound, leaving a soon-to-be traumatized Kushina and a beaten-down Minato in the hospital. If Tsunade or Jiraiya catch wind of the Shinogami being responsible for both attacks, they better pray to Kami for protection if the death goddess dares to come after them next. They don't know it yet, but if they do catch wind of it, then they better start praying. It was a few months later since the whole Kushina incident as we find Naruto Senju on his favorite swing under the big tree outside of THR Academy. He loved that spot so much, it was where he and his mother used to have their picnics. Naruto was as happy as a 6 years old can be, and he was excited about beginning the academy. Normally the academy for students begins when you're 8, but Hashirama wanted the children to be better prepared for the cold life of a shinobi. The students would then graduate at 13 as always, but this new change was good especially for the non-shinobi clan-born students. Naruto was happily swinging while reading his favorite story. Kurama was on his left side sleeping in the shade in his fox form. He was the size of adult version of Akamaru. The fox was released from the seal a few months ago with the help of Madara and Mito herself. The process was painful but worth the wait. The fox was still bound to the seal though via soul link that connected the two of them together. The fox now turned over on his back, rubbing around against the GR trying to get into a good sleeping position. Naruto laughed as he closed his book and jumped off the swing. Walking over, Naruto knelt down and began scratching Kurama's belly. He was shocked when he noticed his tails were waving. Did Kurama like his belly scratched? Who knew? Grumbling and opening his eyes, he noticed the Gaki scratching his belly. He quickly moved onto his belly and looked at the boy. Gaki, why were you rubbing my belly? Kurama asked. Sorry Kura-ni-san, but you were on your back in your sleep and I thought you wanted one. Plus your tails were wagging. Naruto smiled innocently. Kurama's sweat dropped hearing that. He wasn't some puppy that craved attention from his owner. But still he had to admit it did feel nice and he and Naruto did get along. Sighing, he told Naruto that he can give him belly rubs but only in private since he didn't want word getting out that the greatest tail beasts in the world likes belly rubs. The blonde Gaki nodded his head in agreement. Naruto turned around and leaned back to snuggle into his side. This kid has really grown on me, Kyuubi chuckled as he wrapped his tails around the boy. All tired out as he. A voice spoke. Kurama turned to see Hashirama. The fox looked back at the Gaki and nodded his head. Out like a light. Though I thought Uzumaki's and Senju's had amazing stamina and energy to stay up for hours. Well, that's true, but not everyone is gifted with that. Hashirama laughed as he knelt down and ran his hand through his son's hair. So how are you enjoying your freedom, Kurama? Not complaining. Although I enjoy the sweet fresh air and wind against my face. I don't enjoy the looks from certain people that I've been receiving. I have no quarrel with the mortals that hate me. But I am concerned about the brat's welfare. How so? The Hokage asked. Even if 98% of the village accepts me and Naruto as a Jinchuriki. The other 2%, though small, can still pose a threat to the boy. Even if he's your son, that alone won't stop them. People have betrayed the village for less. But they know you're close and protective of the boy. They wouldn't risk angering you. Like I said, Hashirama, even the most stupidest of men would take risk if meant ridding the village of Naruto. Kyuubi answered coldly. Hashirama knew that no matter what the era, conflict will always happen. He knew firsthand how Jinchuriki were treated, but he believed his village to be different. But even that is wishful thinking. Yes, 98% love Naruto and accepted Kurama, but the last 2% still fear for their lives. Fear is natural, he knows that, and humans fear what they don't understand. But even still, anyone who threatens or harms his son, be it friend, ally, enemy, or family, he will never forgive them and will put an end to them. So any word from you know who? Kurama asked, growling when he said, you know who? Hashirama nodded. Yes, I received a letter from my granddaughter that the Namikaze family is arriving tonight via royal escort by the daimyo. Minato, from what I heard, was attacked while in his home and his wife Kushina suffered a traumatic experience from some unknown source. Based on what Tsunade said in her letter, Minato's chakra reserves have shrunk to that of a low chunin. Kushina, however, is physically fine, but her ability to use chakra chains have vanished. Also, her mind seemed to have suffered quite a bit. Kurama took a moment to think for a minute of what kind of entity could do something that like. There were many demons and other beings that were capable of such damage. But something that involves chakra and bloodline loss, that was something different. He swore he knew someone that could do it, but quite put his claw on it. Any clues that they might have on who did it? The only clue they had was someone woman with long black hair and red eyes. Hashirama shrugged. Wait, dark hair and red eyes. Ooh. Kurama grinned. You know something. The only person capable of this is the Shinogami. She has the ability to punishment humans in the most sadistical way. She also has the ability to take away abilities from people. Plus, she is the only female deity with the darkest black hair and red eyes. Plus, she must be punishing Minato for breaking her deal. It all fits. So they won't pose a threat trying to get Naruto back. Hashirama sighed in relief. Don't underestimate Minato nor Kushina, Hashirama. They may be weak now, but they've overcome much worse than what happened to them, believe me. Uzumakis are very stubborn. Your wife is a good example. Plus, Minato is a genius, a very rare one, I might add, which I hate admitting. So even in their weakened state, just remember. A corned animal is the most dangerous. He couldn't agree more with the Nine Tails. Minato was a powerful shinobi even with his flying thunder god, which was based of his brother Tobirama's jutsu. Uzumakis were among the greatest of fuinjutsu users, and they had very potent chakra and long life spans. But Hashirama believed he could handle them due to him being the god of shinobi. But he shouldn't get to why. Their conversation continued for a few hours when Naruto somehow woke up from his mid-afternoon nap. Yawning, he noticed that his father had come to see him. Hi, Dad. Naruto smiled. Hello, Maelstrom. Sleep well? Yeah, good afternoon nap after playing ninja with Sasuke and Neji tired me out. I can see you formed a great friendship with the two. Speaking of which, how is Neji doing? Hashirama asked. Hashirama knew from the Hyuga clan what Kaguya had done. Hiashi burst into his office in full blunt rage, explained the situation, and demanded the head of Kaguya for her crimes. Kaguya was called to his office to explain her side of the story. She told him about a certain seal that was used to keep the side branch in line. She also told him the effects of the seal and what it does to the person's mindset. He was infuriated with this kind of slavery. He dealt with many disobedient senjus during his time, but never would we result into barbaric enslavement. He chewed Hiashi out and tore him a new one. He couldn't interfere with clan affairs, so he couldn't do anything. However, Kaguya managed to win the day by gaining custody of the side branch and adopting them into her old clan Utsutsuki. He remembered Hiashi's horrified expression as he knew the power and prestige of the Utsutsuki clan. To save face, Hiashi gave up the side branch to Kaguya, which saved him from any political embezzlements. Neji is doing great too, San. He's settling in well, as are the others. However, I'm a little weirded out that when I one day marry Kaguya, I'll have to call Neji my stepson. But I like him more like a big brother. What about that fangirl of yours? The one who has a crush on you. The one who's trying to impress Madara, Kurama teased, making the boy fume. Arrow Fox, she's not my fangirl and I'm not into her, okay? Naruto yelled. Don't put images like that in my head. Kurama and Hashirama laughed at his little tantrum as the fox stood up and shook his body. Hashirama picked up his son and was going to take him to the Uchiha compound for dinner. Apparently Makoto invited them over for a special dinner. He then carried his son by piggyback as Naruto wrapped his arms around his neck. They walked down the street where many greeted them on their way to the Uchiha compound. On their way there, Kurama took a right, much to their confusion. I'll meet you all there, I have to take care of something. The fox said, taking a shortcut to the graveyard. Hashirama and Naruto just shrugged and left the fox to his own business. When they left, some of the villagers, and yes, you guessed it, fox haters, decided to follow it and end it. Creeping through the shadows, they took notice of the fox heading into the graveyard. Deep into the graveyard till he came to a halt. The shinobi stood in the shadows waiting for a moment to strike. The fox sat down before a tombstone which read, "Here lies Tobirama Senju, a great shinobi, a faithful brother, a devoted friend. It's been a long time, my old friend." Kurama chuckled, wiping his eyes. "I'm sorry I haven't been here as much as I hoped. But things have been a bit busy for me. But a lot of good things happened. I made a new friend, your nephew Naruto. Your brother and sister-in-law were brought back from the grave to raise my Jinchuriki, who was abandoned by his real ones. Thanks to the brat, I am finally able to walk in the real world again. But still, I wish you were still here, Toby. I still blame myself for not being able to protect you during the Second War when Mito allowed me freedom to fight by your side." Kurama was allowed freedom after the First War but was still bound to Mito. He was allowed free reign as long as he behaved. Tobirama and his at first hated each other, but somehow not really sure how they managed to create a civilized friendship. Not best friends but still friends. After Hashirama died, Kurama was always there for Tobirama, which the guy thanked him for. Their friendship soon became a close companionship. Maybe even more than that. Kurama would always fight alongside Mito or Tobirama in battle. Until that fateful day during the Second Shinobi War, when Tobirama chose to sacrifice himself for his village. It was the last battle they ever fought together, and it was on he regretted. Tobirama was struck down by a sneak attack with an explosive tag attached to a kunai. Kurama remembered going into rage and killed every enemy ninja there. Once he calmed down, he tried applying his chakra to his wounds. He was bleeding too fast and many internal organs were damaged. Kurama tried much to his ability, but Tobirama told him that his was okay. He did his job and he did it for the village. Kurama remembered his blood-covered paws as he looked down on the lifeless body of his closest friend. Tobirama was more than just a friend. Unknown to the second Hokage, Kurama was in love with Tobirama. The rest of the story was history. Tobirama, he cried tears as they dropped to the ground. "I can sense you, shinobi. Come on out." The group consisted for 4 jonin and 15 villagers. They all carried pitchforks and armed themselves with multiple weapons. "We are here to avenge our loved ones that you killed. The Hokage may believe your sorry sob story, but we don't. We know better. Today you die, demon, and maybe Hokage-sama's son will be free of your influence." Kurama rose to his feet as he turned around and glared at them. "You should know better than to threaten someone like me. Especially when I'm in such a bad mood." Kurama charged at them as they charged in return, hoping to finally ending the fox. But boy, were they outnumbered. So very wrong. Kurama was not only able to overpower them, but he dismembered each of them slowly and painfully. Legs ripped off, bodies ripped open while still alive. Heck, even one of the ninja was dissected. Kurama showed no mercy as the ground was spilled and stained with blood. Panting, he sat back down and began licking the blood off him. When he heard a clapping sound behind him. "Now that is what I call a show." The fox turned to see an old woman, well, more like a hag. She was short and had a humped back. Her teeth were rotten and her skin was wrinkled and saggy. "Who are you?" he asked warningly. "I mean you no harm, Kurama. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Gilda. I'm the embodiment of time and age. What is someone like you doing here? And how do you know my name?" "I know all about you, Kurama, from your birth to your life right now. I also know of your relationship with Tobirama Senju." She laughed before coughing. "I can sense great distress and hurt in your heart. You blame yourself for his death, do you not? That's none of your business, old hag. Temper just like a child. Well, I have come here on Kami-sama's wishes. I'm here to give you this." She holds out a bottle of silver water. This vial contains water from the very river of eternal life. Sprinkle this water on any dead body and they will fully be restored to the age of when they first died. What's the catch? Kami wouldn't just give this for free. There is always a price for something like this. Kurama scoffed at the woman's offer. Naruto's fate is critical and we must ensure that nothing interferes with its progression. You are a critical part of it, Kurama. You are the demon of fire that the prophecy speaks of. Your loyalty to the Senju is unquestionable. Which is admirable, but you've been easily turned away by other means like Madara, for example. What's your point, lady? My point is, in order for you to not be tempted by outside forces to steer you away from Naruto, we needed a way to keep you on the right track. So we decided that by resurrecting Tobirama, maybe, just maybe, he can keep you safe. Tobirama died for this village. I understood that a long time ago. I'm loyal to the village, no question there. But I will not abandon or turn away from the village. Kyuubi roared. But you do wish to have Tobirama back, don't you? Think about it. She hands him the vial as she vanished out of sight. Kurama looked down at the vial in his hand. Is this really what he wants? Does he really want Tobirama back after the sacrifice he made? So many thoughts were conflicting his mind. Was it right to reassure CT, a man who proudly gave his life for his home? A man who chose to die than see the village fall. A man who Kurama highly respected. Sure, he missed his friend, but was it enough to disturb his resting place? Taking a deep breath, he thought for a moment, thinking of the benefits and cons of this decision. The benefits were that Naruto would have an extra family member if Hashirama or Mito would somehow pee away young. Naruto could also benefit in elemental jutsus, as Tobirama was a master water ninjutsu user who could conjure up water without any water source nearby. The cons would be Hashirama would be furious about this, not to mention Tobirama if he was returned to life. Naruto needed all the help he could get, and what's the harm with one more Senju? It would help the numbers grow more quicker. Plus Tobirama could keep Madara on a tight leash, so that was a score in Kurama's book. Gripping the vial, he made his decision. Leaning down, he used his chakra to crumble the earth till the casket was revealed. Pulling off the lid, there laid Tobirama, perfectly preserved via preservation seals which kept the body intact and well guarded against the elements. Uncorking the vial, he opened the man's mouth and poured the liquid down his throat. Stepping back, he waited to see if anything happened. After a few moments, he started to think that this whole vial thing was pure bullshit. I mean, only Shinogami and Kami have the power of resurrection. He couldn't believe he allowed himself to be conned. Until he heard what sounded like a groan. Kurama looked wide-eyed as Tobirama was grunting and flinching a bit as his eyes started to flutter open. What? Where am I? Tobirama groaned, trying to get up. The Nindaime looked around and noticed he was in a hole in the ground and quickly noticed the outline of the casket. Was he brought back to life? Did someone use the reanimated jutsu? He got up slowly as he could till he saw a certain paw in front of him. He looked up and noticed the Kyuubi in his sight. Kurama, is that you? He asked. Who else would it be, you crinkled sack of water? Kurama teased. Yep, that is definitely Kurama. Tobirama sighed. Mind telling me what's going on? You want the long or the short version? Give me the short version. He groaned. There was a boy named Naruto Senju born to Minato Senju Namikaze, your great-grandson, and his wife Kushina Uzumaki. He was born with a twin brother named Menma. I was forced to attack the village after I was ripped from Kushina. I was defeated and sealed into the twins. Naruto got my and Menma got my chakra. Afterwards, there was a prophecy about a child who would bring peace to the shinobi world. Minato and his family believed it to be Menma, so they abandoned Naruto and took Menma with them to their compound in the capital. Shinogami found out and was furious, so she punished Minato and Kushina, but not before resurrecting Hashirama and Mito to raise Naruto as their son, who is no biologically theirs. Minato and Kushina are coming back to Konoha to get Naruto back and claim him. Also Madara is alive as well, and some old lady of time gave me this vial of water that would bring you back from the dead so you can help protect Naruto and help him fulfill his destiny. I said give me the short version. Tobirama said coldly till he sighed. Kurama pulled him out of the hole as he wondered how he was going to explain this to the Hokage and Mito. Tobirama stretched a bit to get used to his body after being dead for almost 90 years. He then asked Kurama to tell him more about the prophecy and how Naruto was doing. Kurama took the time to explain everything so that Tobirama could be up to date with everything that happened. I see to think my grandniece and great-grand-nephew could sink that low. Tobirama hissed. However, I'm glad the boy is doing alright. Though I'm upset that Madara is still alive. I hope that crow-sucking bastard remained dead, but it seems my idiot brother once again decided to show mercy to that bastard. Don't worry, he's changed and for the better as much as I hate him. He has changed. Kurama said. HMPH, someone of his caliber can't just change on a whim. If you want me to truly believe he's changed, then I'll see it for myself. Always the cold, untrusting man, even back during the first and second Shinobi Wars. The fox laughed. So where is my idiot brother now? Your brother and his family are at the Uchiha compound about to have dinner with Makoto Uchiha and her family. Care to join them? Sure, I'm always up for a little dinner and a little drama once I make my appearance. Alright then, let's be off, Kurama said, taking the scenic route away from anyone as this was to remain a secret for now. With the Namikaze family, a well-decorated carriage was coming towards the front gate of the Leaf Village. The two guards at the door noticed the design and believed it was a member of the royal court of the fire capital, or maybe the daimyo himself. The carriage driver handed over the documents of the people inside. They looked shocked and with disgust but nodded as they were let through. Inside the carriage were 6 people. Minato, who was looking much healthier now thanks to his mother's skills in medical jutsus. He was also perfectly built after retraining day and night since his recovery. He managed to increase his speed and agility to make up for the loss of the Hiroshin. His chakra pools were now slightly high chunin to low jonin, but that was as much as he could do. Kushina was still suffering from the after effects of the nightmares she had. She was unable to perform any of the old Uzumaki seals due to her memory being erased of them. Her chakra chains were gone forever. But she was still a powerhouse to deal with. She never really relied on her seals or bloodline that much. She proved exactly how stubborn Uzumaki women are. Menma was doing fine as well. He was well built and quite handsome to boot, with his father's looks and blonde hair. His power level was that of high genin, but he was well trained in D and low C jutsus. Jiraiya and Tsunade were there with them to bring unquestionable support for the family. The last person with them was none other than the Amazon Queen of Nadeshiko. She was the embodiment of perfect beauty with a slim figure and long luscious black hair. She was dressed in her shinobi kimono outfit that hugged her figure with double swords on her back. They were on their way to meet with the Hokage Maru Senju, the 5th Hokage, to discuss the fate and future of one Naruto Senju, their former son and the queen's daughter's future husband. Minato and Kushina believed they did everything they could to ensure the boy's safety and for the whole shinobi world. Plus they also managed to secure a bright future for their sons. Menma would bring great power to the clan when he takes over the Senju, Uzumaki, and Namikaze clan. Naruto would be head of the Namikaze side branch and be the protector of his brother. Not to mention the powerful children he would breed with the Nibi Jinchuriki. You sure Naruto ni-san won't hate us? Menma asked. Kushina laughed. Don't be silly, Menma. Naruto won't hate us. He's a smart boy from what I heard. He will come to accept us when we explain the situation. Your mother is right, kid. Your parents made a very tough choice. But it was for the benefit of the whole shinobi world. Jiraiya explained. Even if he does hate us, we will try to gain his forgiveness. Minato boasted. I mean, who wouldn't want to be the child of the Yellow Flash and the infamous Red Death of Konoha? Besides, Naruto will have everything he could ever want. Tsunade answered. Yeah, not to mention he's going to bed Amazon women and a hot Jinchuriki to boot. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Jiraiya chuckled, visioning it. Tsunade bonked him on the head, screaming about him and his pervertedness. The carriage came to a halt as the family stepped out of the carriage. All right, everyone, we have a Hokage to see. Minato smiled as he and his family headed inside. Uchiha compound. Meanwhile, back at the Uchiha compound, Hashirama and his family greeted Fugaku and his family. Words of greetings were exchanged as the group entered the house for a well-cooked meal. Mito complimented Makoto on her cooking, making the matriarch blush. Sasuke and Satsuki greeted Naruto with the proper manners, which he returned. Please sit down, dinner will be served soon. Makoto smiled brightly. Everyone took their seats as the family began making conversations. Fugaku explained how Madara was going through the reformation of the Uchiha clan. He wanted to ensure there were no uprisers or any threat from within the clan. Hashirama laughed, knowing that his old friend was always the paranoid one. Naruto was helping Makoto cook the dumplings, which was his favorite part of their get-togethers. Sasuke and Satsuki were also helping as they enjoyed cooking a bit themselves. A puff of smoke appeared before them as Madara stood before them with a very serious expression. Hashirama knew that meant something was very, very wrong. Madara, is something wrong? Hashirama asked. The Uchiha only nodded as he replied. The Namakazes are here. They have arrived at the Hokage tower. The group was silent as the Hokage stood up. It was time to finally face them and to put an end to their quest of reclaiming Naruto. Suddenly a loud knocking was heard as Itachi said he will get it. When Itachi answered the door, he noticed Kyuubi standing there. Kyuubi-sama, welcome, please come in. Itachi bowed. Thank you, Itachi, mind if my guests comes in? Kurama turned to his old friend as Itachi gasped, seeing the second Hokage standing before him. Tobirama sighed before walking past Itachi and towards the living area. Hashirama heard footsteps as he noticed a familiar shadow in the doorway. The shadow vanished as Tobirama came into view. Hashirama and Madara's jaw dropped. Was Tobirama standing before them? Did someone bring him back from the dead too? Close your mouths, you'll catch flies that way. Tobirama said sternly. Although I can say for sure it's not nice seeing you again, Madara tem. Madara sighed but laughed. Still acting high and might, aren't you, Tobi-Dobi? I can still crush you in an instant, Madara. Perhaps you would like another lesson up close, Tobirama screamed, releasing his intent. Tobirama, enough. Hashirama shouted. How are you here? A certain old fox and a old lady. Tobirama responded plainly. They all looked at Kurama, who held his paws up. Hey, don't look at me. I was just greeted by an old lady who said Kami sent her to give me this vial of silver water and bring him back. Anyway, don't blame the fox. For once I'm glad to be walking around instead of being dead in the ground. Besides, I'm here to meet my nephew. Is he here? Naruto, overhearing, jumps down and runs over to the man. I'm Naruto, sir. He smiled. Tobirama knelt down as he looked over Naruto and saw much of Hashirama in him with certain traits from Mito. Smiling, he ruffled his hair. Hello Naruto, I'm Tobirama, your uncle. I was the Hokage after your dad died young. Tobirama smiled. Wow, you're the second Hokage. Naruto said, excited. I heard so much about you from Tu-san. Good things, I hope, he said, looking at his brother. Hello Tobirama, it's good to see you again. Mito smiled. Hello again Firebird, you're looking good. Ooh, why thank you. Mito blushed. Madara cleared his throat. As much as we would love getting acquainted, I believe we have a family to meet. The group nodded as Tobirama asked if he could come along. Madara and Hashirama nodded as Tobirama hiroshined them to the Hokage's office along with Mito. Hokage's office. Minato and company were waiting for the secretary to give them the go-ahead. They noticed the look of disgust upon her face as she looked at them. They knew that they weren't well liked from what Jiraiya told them. But they were willing to pay that price if it meant keeping the shinobi world safe. Suddenly an Anbu by the name of Inu which they noticed was Kakashi approached them. Minato-sama and family, the Hokage is ready to see you now. Kakashi said coldly, making them flinch. Kakashi, Minato said sadly. They were led down the hall until they reached the Hokage's office. Kakashi knocked on the door. Lord Hokage, the Namakazes and company are here to see you. Send them in. Kakashi. Kakashi stood aside to let the family in. Minato opened the door and walked in. They were greeted by two people they didn't expected to see. Madara Uchiha, who was long thought dead, and Mito Uzumaki, the Namikaze clan killer, and a hood-robed man next to the Hokage seat. So you finally show your face, Madara scoffed. Now Madara, although their presence is unwanted, they still want to speak to Hokage-sama. Mito said in a cold tone. Mito-sama, Kushina said, I didn't give you permission to speak to me, traitor. Mito shouted. Kushina flinched at her words as she shut her mouth. The Hokage's seat was facing the window as the Hokage spoke in a deep voice. What brings you here? As if I didn't already know. Lord Hokage, we have come for the return of our son Naruto. We understand you and Mito-sama have been raising him. We are grateful for that, but now that we are back, we would like him returned. Minato explained. You expect me to return a boy I loved as my own son. A boy who was abandoned by his parents, a boy who Lady Shinogami took pity on and gave him a new family. A boy who deeply loves and cares for Mito and I. A boy you had no right to, Suan shouted. And how about turning around, coward, show us your face. The Hokage motioned for his hooded friend to go first as the hooded man turned around and took off his robe, revealing himself to the group. Minato and the others gasped as there stood the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju. But if he is here, then that meant. The Hokage chair slowly turned around as Hashirama glared angrily at them. Hello Tsunade. The air within the office was dropped to such a cold temperature. The emotions emitting from the Senju brothers, Mito and Madara, were flaring and combining to raise the level of killing intent they were expressing. Hashirama was glaring upon his granddaughter like he was glaring upon an enemy. Tobirama was the same way as his older brother, except his reason was different. Tobirama had taught Tsunade the importance of family and the values of the Senju clan. Mito and Madara were glaring at Kushina. Mito was releasing killing intent for Kushina's betrayal of the Uzumaki clan values. Madara wanted to kill every single one of them since Madara was once a father and he loved his children, unlike Minato who only loved one of his children and abandoned the other. Tsunade and the others were having mixed expressions and feelings about what the situation in hand. Here standing before them were the first and second Hokage, Mito Uzumaki, and the infamous Madara Uchiha. The most powerful and dangerous of the shinobi nations and known as gods by all. Gigi, Tsunade spoke. My patience is wearing thin. Hashirama spoke coldly. You dare to show your faces after you fled from the village after the Kyuubi attack. How are you both alive and young? Jiraiya asked. A certain deity took pity upon Naruto and brought my wife, brother, and I to take care of him. Since you both failed in your parental responsibility, it fell upon our shoulders. The Shinogami, of course, Minato scowled. Prideful divinity bitch. We told Sarutobi that Naruto would go to an orphanage. There he will grow up with other children and have a normal childhood. Then when Menma turns 13 we would come back to retrieve him. Kushina explained. Because you wanted to raise the boys apart from each other under the fear of Kurama trying to take back his chakra right. Mito said in her sharp tongue-like tone. Not only that, but also due to a prophecy that decided the fate of the shinobi world. I knew it had to be Menma, and so it was decided to take him to the Namikaze compound in the fire capital. Jiraiya pointed out. Yet you didn't decide to leave the poor boy with a family friend or an allied clan. Tobirama said with a tone as cold as Madara's. We couldn't have him live with any of the clans as that would draw suspicion and attention to Naruto. Minato explained. Sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me, Madara scoffed. I being a father once myself would have made sure my child would stay with a family friend or ally if I had to perform a mission or whatever that was critical to the village's safety. Well, regardless of what you think of us, we did it to ensure the world's salvation and survival. Minato retorted. We know it was painful for us to do this, Naruto. But we are back now and we would like for the return of Naruto to us. Hashirama laughed. In fact, it was the most he laughed in such a long time. You honestly think I would surrender my son back to man with a godlike complex? A man who threw away one of his sons for the training of another. A man who fled the village when they needed him the most. A man who deserted his village when we were in such a weakened state that left us in such a vulnerable state in which our enemies could easily attack us. Hashirama yelled at the end, panting hard. Lord Hashirama, please see. Minato sighed. Minato was soon interrupted by a gust of wind that was pure chakra. The feeling and the killer intent within was making it tough to breathe. Gazing up, he looked to see it coming from Tobirama Senju. Say please see reason and I'll rip out your eyes and shove them down your throat so you can see my hands tear your cark open. The second Hokage shouted angrily. The party backed away, including Madara himself. They have never seen Tobirama so pissed off before, except only when it was wartime. The Namikaze family couldn't even move at the amount of Ki was being released. The only one who weren't affected it was the Amazon Queen herself. She was gazing at Tobirama with such longing and lust in her eyes. Your reputation precedes you, Tobirama, the queen purred. And you are? Tobirama asked. My name is Gabrielle, queen of the Amazons, she greeted. Tobirama heard about the Amazon village of Nadeshiko. They were a race of powerful female shinobi that only marry if they could be defeated in battle. He thought that was crazy, but he wasn't one to contradict or insult their methods and ways of living. He remembered when he fought a few members in his youth and won against them. But then refused to marry any of them as he wasn't interested in marriage or anything of the sort. A pleasure, Gabrielle-sama. Likewise, Tobirama. I wish we could have met under better circumstances, but am I here to fulfill the contract signed by Minato regarding his son Naruto and my twin daughters Xena and Artemis? According to the contract, they would meet up with the boy and during the Chunin exams they will fight. If Naruto wins, my daughters are his. And if he loses his life, Mito growled. Precisely. Now if you would be a dear, call Naruto here. So he can be reunited with his parents and we can go on with business. Gabrielle smiled. Hashirama was about to stand up when Mito stepped forward and got into the queen's face. The Uzumaki matriarch glared and her hair flared as her eyes turned slits, her nails turned into claws and whisker marks grew on her face. She looked like a female human version of Kyuubi. Listen here, jungle whore. My baby isn't going to fight so she can fight your driven spawns. Mito insulted Gabrielle. Gabrielle growled at the disrespect the woman was giving about her village and her daughters. She also flared her hair and countered with her facial markings become tiger-like. Her eyes, nails, facial markings strongly resembled a tiger as she growled back at Mito. I'd watch what you say, ocean bitch. The queen roared. When it comes to my son, I'll make sure only the best women marry my little boy. Mito growled. You mean my boy? Kushina shouted. Shut up, Kushina. Mito and Gabrielle screamed. Enough of this chatter. Tobirama, please retreat Naruto for us so we can put an end to this once and for all. I'm sure Naruto would love to his former parents and get to know them. Hashirama grinned insanely, which Tobirama nodded at before vanishing. Konohagakure. Ichiraku ramen. Meanwhile, we find Naruto at Ichiraku ramen having some delicious miso ramen with Kaguya and Kurama. The sweet smell of aroma from the ramen bowl filled the redhead boy's nostrils as he dived into his bowl. Kurama never had ramen before and he never understood why Naruto or Kushina could even devour so much of this stuff. Still, it couldn't hurt to try it. Take his chopsticks. He tasted the noodles and his taste buds took him to a whole new level of taste. Holy Kami, never would I have believed that ramen would taste so delicious, the fox laughed, eating more. Told you, buddy, ramen is the food of the gods. Naruto smiled, finishing his sixth bowl. Kaguya was eating her ramen with more sophistication as per her character and status. She was enjoying the food that her future husband-to-be loved so much. Thank you, Ayame-san. This ramen is wonderful. You and your father are amazing cooks. Thank you, Lady Kaguya, it's our pleasure. Thank you for the kind appreciation. Ayame blushed. Excuse me, I'm looking for Naruto, a voice called out. Everyone turned to see Lord Tobirama standing in the entrance. Tsuki and Ayame immediately gasped at seeing the presence of the second Hokage. They immediately bowed their heads. Lord Second, welcome to Ichiraku. Tsuki welcomed him. Pardon me for the interruption. But I am here to collect Naruto, for my brother wants him to come to the Hokage's office. Tobirama answered. Any particular reason, uncle? Naruto wondered. Yes, the Namikaze family has arrived to the village and are at the Hokage's office awaiting for presents. Naruto placed down his bowl as he stood up. Kurama knew how long Naruto had waited for this moment. His face was lowered at the ground with his hair covering his eyes. Kaguya was worried for him as well. She knew that her lover had a horrible past with his former parents, but at the same time she was looking forward to seeing how he was going to handle the situation. So they finally shown their faces after all this time. Naruto said coldly, which thickened the air around him. Are you sure you wish to face them now? We could always postpone the meeting until another time if you wish. Tobirama asked. No, uncle, if I don't encounter them now, I'll never get over this rage that's building up inside of me. If I want to move on with my life, then I have to ensure that they don't try anything to worm their way back to my life. Well, if you're sure. Yes, uncle, I am very sure, Naruto growled. Very well, Naruto, come with me, Tobirama said, taking his nephew's hand. Wait, Naruto said as he got on Kurama's back. Kurama should come with us. I have a feeling Kurama wants a go at them too. Especially since he is now accepted by the villagers. Kurama sighed, but he had to agree with the brat. He most defiantly had a few words to speak with his former Jinchuriki and her husband. Nodding to the boy, he took hold of Tobirama as they vanished. Kaguya thanked the Ichiraku family for the ramen as she opened a dimensional portal and went through it and decided to head to the office before Naruto did. Konohagakure Hokage office. While awaiting for the arrival of Naruto, the two families were arguing back and forth about the fate of Naruto. Hashirama was the most upset with the vocabulary of insults coming out of his mouth. Who knew the god of shinobi had such a colorful vocabulary? You arrogant little, traitorous, backstabbing, toad-sucking whore, Hashirama shouted. You think you can demand me of anything? I am the Senju clan head grandfather, Tsunade retorted back. You're a cowardly nobody that I am ashamed to have created from my son's loins. You turned your back on everything your parents and I taught you. I did no such thing, old man. Like we told Sarutobi-sensei, the survival of the world outweighs the needs of a single boy. Tsunade scoffed at him. We put the survival of the world above our own family. A loud slap was heard as Tsunade felt her head turn sharply to the right. Minato and the others gasped at what they had witnessed. Tsunade was most shocked as her grandfather never rose a hand against her. We Senjus don't put anything above family, Tsunade. Hashirama shouted back. You hit me. You've never raised your hand against me. Tsunade gasped, shaking a little. I'm your granddaughter. You're nothing to me now. As of now, I disown all traces of you. You are no longer a Senju and don't even try to argue. You've never taken the mantle of Lady Senju while you were still in Konoha. Sarutobi told me you were too busy gambling and building up debt after debt. You've never attended council meetings, and you haven't been taking care of the Senju clan compound and the clan's bank accounts. You've never even married and yet you had this man here with a man out of wedlock. Hey, my personal life is none of your business, and for your information, Minato was the best thing that ever happened to me. He became the infamous Yellow Flash and won us the Third Great War. Hell, even Iwagakure fears him so badly they wouldn't dare attack Konoha. You mean the Hiroshima that my brother invented and mastered during the First and Second Great Wars? Hashirama scoffed. Your son even dared to claim that it was a bloodline that his clan was famous for. Suddenly a knock was heard at the door as everyone wondered if it was Naruto. Hashirama smiled and told whoever it was to come in. Suddenly a portal came out of nowhere as they saw a beautiful woman coming through it. Jiraiya was awesome struck and made perverted sounds as he gazed at the beauty before him. He could see she was a lovely beauty with long white hair, black lipstick, and soft skin. She was also wearing a kimono with pink flower petal designs on it. Lady Kaguya, greetings, Hashirama greeted. Greetings Hashirama, Mito, Madara. Kaguya smiled before looking at the Namakazes with a glare. The Namakaze's pleasure. Hey, show my parents some respect, Menma growled. They are well known and respected heroes. Little boys should learn to be quiet when the adults are speaking, she hissed as she let out her intent, which suffocated them and brought them to their knees. Who the hell are you? Kushina demanded. My name is Kaguya Utsutsuki, soon to be Kaguya Senju. She answered the demanding Namakaze woman. You're marrying my grandfather? Tsunade asked. Of course not, I'm Naruto's first wife. Wife. They all shouted. But that's impossible. My twin daughters were going to be Naruto's first spouses due to the marriage contract. Gabrielle shouted. Besides, you're too old for the boy anyway. He needs someone his own age. Madara scoffed. As if my student would oceate himself with weak kunoichi such as you. Watch what you say, Uchiha. My village may be small but it's powerful, and don't you forget it. I only speak the truth, jungle girl. Also, the marriage contract you have with Naruto I'm afraid isn't valid anymore. What nonsense do you speak, Uchiha? Minato challenged. Naruto is no longer biologically yours anymore, Madara grinned. What do you mean by that? Of course he's still our baby, Kushina shouted. What Madara means is that Naruto went through a genetic change. Like a metamorphosis. When you both abandoned him when he was born, the death goddess altered the boy's DNA to match the genetic code of myself and Hashirama. Meaning that the Namakaze clan genetic code no longer exists within his small body. Mito said arrogantly. You lie. No such thing can alter someone's DNA, Jiraiya shouted. Are you saying you know more than one of the three divine sisters do? Madara asked the Toad Sage. Are you doubting their abilities? Enough, Madara, don't waste your time with this man. His ability of rational thinking had long since died out from the countless beatings he got from the women he peeped on. Kaguya sighed. Hey, I'm over here, Jiraiya grunted, feeling insulted by the beautiful woman. You're not important. Kaguya blew him off. Jiraiya felt his whole world shatter at the very thing Kaguya said to him. Never had he been struck down this emotionally by a woman since Tsunade refused to his date when he was in his youth. Hey, you can't talk to pervy sage like that, Menma shouted again. Suddenly the commotion was interrupted as they saw Naruto himself walking into the office. But on the back of the nine-tailed fox itself. Minato, Jiraiya, and Kushina immediately went on the defensive. How is the fox free? Minato shouted. We set it free, Mito smirked. What? Why would you do that? Kushina yelled. Do you understand what you've unleashed upon the village? Ooh, shut up, you old broad, Naruto groaned, cleaning out his ear. Kurama is a part of the village. The villagers accept him. The fox has placed our son under his control. We must reseal the Kyuubi. It's obvious Naruto wasn't capable of keeping the soul of the Kyuubi at bay. We must reseal the beast into Menma. Jiraiya said, getting his sealing kit ready. The Kyuubi let out a roar which sent the family back against the wall. Naruto immediately rubbed the fox's head to calm him down. Easy Kurama, don't kill them yet. Naruto smiled. They were asking for it, Gaki, you know that. I know that, Kurama, but I want my turn before you get to play with them. Fine, but don't take too long, Gaki. Alright, now that Kurama has calmed down, let's get down to business, shall we? Naruto said sternly, not in the mood for games. Ah, Naruto, I'm glad to see you actually have control over the beast, Minato said with that foxy grin that Naruto couldn't help but growl at. Look at you, so handsome already. You have your father's looks alright, the redhead woman gushed. But my red hair. Naruto then noticed a boy about his age with red hair like him but spiky walk up to him. Hey Ni-san, my name is Menma, I'm your brother. I've waited a long time to meet you. Menma grinned. Now that we're together again, we can finally fulfill the prophecy together, and you can also fulfill your duty. What duty? Naruto asked. That's simple, son. Menma here will be head of the Senju, Uzumaki, and Namikaze clan. He's also going to engage to Unoka's granddaughter and other powerful females of other nations to rebuild the clans. Minato smiled. You will become the head of the Namikaze side branch and will be married to my cousin's daughter. You will also marry Mei Terumi and the Nibi Jinchuriki of Kumo. This will bring peace between Iwa, Kumo and the Leaf Village. Plus you will be trained in minor ninjutsu and fuinjutsu from your mother. You'll also be trained under Tsunade to become a support medic nin. That way you'll always be at your brother's side whenever he gets hurt. Plus you'll be engaged to my twin daughters, bringing the support and political power of Nadeshiko to the Leaf as well. Gabrielle smirked. So you're saying my duty is being a slave to my brother and the clan, like how the Hyuga clan operates? You're also saying that you want me to marry women I've never even met just for the sole purpose of increasing the power level with new powers and abilities within the clan. You won't be a slave, Naruto, Kushina laughed. You'll be a support ninja to protect the main branch of the Namikaze clan along with your new wife. So it is like the Hyuga clan. Naruto scoffed. Thanks but no thanks. Everyone was shocked that Naruto was refusing such an opportunity. He was not only denying to be part of the Namikaze clan, but he was also denying to be married and court with many powerful females that many have strived to be bed with. Many men would kill to have what Naruto was being offered. But he was throwing it all away. What do you mean no? Minato gasped. Do you realize what you are refusing? Of course I do, besides I already have a wife to be and she's proven herself to me in more ways than one. Naruto smirked as he winked at Kaguya. But she's too old for you, Tsunade yelled. Says the 50-year-old broad who spread her legs for a younger man. Naruto smirked. Though with your wrinkly skin you're hiding under that genjutsu, I'm surprised that Minato's father even bedded you at all. Madara snickered under his breath as he was trying hard not to laugh. Tsunade looked like she was about to bust a blood vessel. How dare this brat insult her like that? Once we return home I'm going to beat into you some common sense and make you learn to respect your betters. Tsunade growled, cracking her knuckles, wanting to pound the wise kid. And I told you I'm not going anywhere. I'm happy here with the parents I have now. Besides, I don't carry a single genetic trait of the Namikaze clan. So therefore Minato has no biological claim over me. Minato was slowly getting a migraine. This wasn't what he had hoped. He was hoping that his son Naruto would jump at the chance to see his family again and welcome them into his life with open arms. But this Naruto before them was cold, calculating, and above all cold and ruthless to them. Kushina was trying hard to hold back her tears. Her son was denying all connections he had with them. She was on the same boat as Minato, believing that her son would welcome her with love and affection only to receive coldness and anger. Mother, father, Uncle Madara, I'm sorry that the Namikaze clan has wasted our valuable time. Naruto spoke to his family. It's no trouble at all, Sochi, Hashirama sighed, resting in his chair. You may leave now. Naruto nodded, but he jumped off the fox's back and embraced his parents. Mito and Hashirama hugged him back as the boy headed to the door only for Kushina to wrap his arms around him. He grunted as he felt her embrace as she was on her knees. Sochi, please, I know you're angry for what we did. But we had no choice, please don't cut us out of your life. Kushina begged. Naruto sighed as he pried her arms off him. Kushina felt herself being pushed off as the boy looked down at her. He looked at her with emotionless eyes that showed neither hate or sympathy. It was complete apathy. If you truly loved me as you claimed you did, then you should have left me with a friend or have one of you stay back to raise me. But instead you chose to take Menma with you and leave me to fend for myself. You didn't abandon me out of love or for more safety. No, you left me out of obligation to your precious toad prophecy. Naruto said before his face turned into a snarl. I once respected you when I heard all the stories of you when I was little. I admired both you and your husband, but once I learned the truth from Kyuubi about what happened, that all went out the window. Now look at yourself begging at my feet like some old beggar on the street, it's pathetic. Sochi, Kushina cried, grabbing his shoulder only for Naruto to slap it away. Please, I'm sorry. Don't touch me, Naruto growled. You honestly expect me to believe you're sorry? Naruto, that's enough. Kushina is your mother, Minato scolded. This woman is no mother of mine, she's no relative of mine either. Naruto yelled back. Please, Naruto. No, Kushina, you hurt me in the worst way possible that very day. Now it's my turn to return that in full. Naruto held down Kushina to the ground as he got on top of her. He quickly used Mokuden, which shocked Hashirama, to bind Kushina to the ground. Reaching into his pouch, he pulled out a kunai and pulled up Kushina's sleeve. Kushina panicked as she struggled as she screamed, feeling the kunai carve into her flesh. She screamed loudly as Naruto began to carve something into her arm. Minato and his family looked in pure horror as Naruto was cutting his former mother with a kunai. Minato and Jiraiya rushed to stop him, only for Madara to pin Jiraiya down and Tobirama pinning down Minato. Tsunade charged forward to attack, only for Mito to deliver a punch, sending her back. Naruto suddenly stopped and admired his handiwork. He quickly got off of Kushina and stood up. He cleaned off the blood from his kunai and bowed to his parents. He then left the office. Kurama used a little of his chakra to prevent the wound from healing fully before he left as well. Kushina panted as she felt the Mokuden release her. She cried softly as she laid there in shock and sadness. She turned her gaze to the arm that Naruto cut. There, carved on her arm, was the word blood kin deserter. She could only lay there in silence as Minato and Jiraiya were released and Menma rushed over to aid his mother. He could see each letter bled from her arm as Tsunade came over and tried to close the wound. However, the letters were forever scarred into her arm, and Tsunade knew that. Believing that the meeting had gone on long enough, Hashirama ordered Minato and his kin to leave and get settled in the Namikaze compound that was still in the village. Not wanting to anger the Hokage and make things worse, Minato and the others decided to retreat for the moment and figure out to fix the situation another time. Minato took his wife into his arms as he and his son left the office and headed towards the Namikaze compound. Tsunade stayed back for a bit as she pierced her grandparents with a glare. You've made a terrible mistake, grandfather. Soon your interference will cause drastic changes and the whole world will suffer because of you. And despite what you say, I'm a proud Senju and I stand by my son no matter what. Tsunade spoke arrogantly. That boy will fulfill his duty and Menma will finally bring peace to the shinobi world. Suddenly a hand wrapped around her neck as Tobirama lifted her up. He had enough of her I'm smarter than you complex. Listen here, Tsunade, if any of you come near my nephew again, grandniece or no, I will kill you. The Nindaime gritted his teeth, putting pressure on her throat, causing her to choke. He then threw her into Jiraiya. Now take your whore and leave Toad Sage before I decide to sever your body and feed you to the animals. I'm sure the animals in the forest of death loves toads. Jiraiya, fearing for his life, immediately took Tsunade and left the office. Tobirama snorted before turning to Hashirama. This won't be the last we see of them. Tobirama warned his brother. Hashirama sighed. You're right about that, Tobirama. We will need to keep a close eye on them. I know Naruto can look after himself, especially with Kurama looking after him. But even he isn't a match for someone of their caliber yet, Mito spoke out. Which is why I'm going to up Naruto's training. Perhaps you'd like to teach him as well, Tobirama. Perhaps. He chuckled. I just hope the boy is able to keep up with me during training. I'm sure he will now. Who's up for some sake? Hashirama smiled as everyone raised their hands. Alright, let's head to that new bar Mito heard about. Everyone nodded their heads at the idea. Hashirama left a shadow clone to handle the paperwork. He then told his secretary to hold his meetings for a while. Once that was finished, they headed out to the new bar to share a drink together like the good old days.